This week on the podcast, we're going to talk about investment planning with Shawn here on Retire Wise. And Shawn, investment planning, we talked about income planning on a prior episode. If that's the foundation, investment planning is at the walls?
Well, it kind of, right? We talked about foundation, walls, and roof in a plan. Those investments, though, span across all three of those floors, right? So the foundation is where we give it a purpose. So we give each one of those sections of the house a purpose. Think about it. When you build a house, the foundation holds up the rest of the house. The walls is where you're living. The roof is putting a shield over your head, right? But we relate that to the same thing with investment. So each one of those levels have a different investment type or strategy to it because they each serve a different purpose.
Okay, so if we're talking about investments, investment planning on this episode, what's the goal typically for us? I guess for the job, right? The job that those dollars are doing.
Yeah, I mean, each one of those investments has a purpose, right? And so their job is very specific. The foundation is providing income. The walls is more about we're fighting inflation, we're paying taxes, we're paying for the fun stuff and the travel and the what ifs that life throws your way, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then the roof is more of the growth mechanism that you're still saving for the future. Look, guys, when we get into investments for retirement planning, we shift our mindset a little bit from all out growth to preservation plus growth.
Right.
But we still got to grow. So we got some growth there in the roof. So we're going to look at all three of those aspects and make sure we get the right diversification across those levels.
Well, and if you think about what's been happening here lately, Shawn, in the market, right? So even for retirees or pre-retirees, we all suffer from this, can I get a little more out of this, right? Yeah. Because when the market's screaming along at the time we're doing these, it's been doing really well. Yeah. We've had some blips along the way, but I mean, realistically, even if you want to go out and cut out some of the blips like COVID and then 2022, it's basically been up for quite a while since the Great Recession of 08-09, right?
Yep.
And so it becomes very tough to sometimes take the winnings off the table, right? And kind of you're like, well, I want to keep going. And so to your point, you still have to have growth in retirement because you got to outpace inflation and all that stuff.
Right.
But at some point, right, you do want to also, that's where that risk tolerance comes into play and say, okay, how are we changing this now? Because I don't get on a skateboard anymore like I did when I was 15. I just don't do it,
Right. Yeah, no, it's your risk tolerance does change. Now, your risk mindset may be a little bit, whatever your risk tolerance is may be the same. But part of our job is to make sure you have the right mixture. Right.
Okay. Right.
Is because look, it is a mind shift. Retirement overall is a mind shift change, right? I mean, you go from punching a time clock and structured day and chaotic whatever into hopefully a more enjoyable, lifestyle and days ahead. But your money mindset is a little bit different. It's that shifting from all out growth to some preservation plus growth. So while it may seem attractive, you don't want to try to time the market with these investments, right? And you want to stick to the plan and stick to the structure of what each of those vehicles are made for, because you don't want that nest egg to disappear relatively quickly just because you're trying to time the market. If you stay true to the plan, it helps smooth that ride out a little bit.
Okay, so let me ask you this. I'll go a little off script and just let you wing it because I think you got the know-how to do that. People will come in and they'll hear terms and be like, "Well, I'm a conservative investor."
Yeah.
What does that mean, right? So does that get kind of hard to quantify, or do you then dig deep to understand what they truly mean by that?
Yeah. So we do it's a risk assessment, but I call it also a financial personality assessment too, right?
Okay.
We're going to sit and have a conversation to figure out what made your financial personality is what it is today, right? And try to get to the root of what that is. Not to say that you're going in a counseling session, but because it's really not that in depth, but we do go a little deep in finding out where your head's at. And one person's conservative is different than another person's conservative, right? And so we try to dig a little bit deeper to put an assessment or a level on that, right? And I love it too when you have couples. Real quick story. I had a couple come in and great, cute little couple. And I was asking them some questions and I said, what could you stand to lose in your portfolio and be okay and be comfortable with it, right? And she always lets him answer first. He goes, I don't know, maybe about 10%. I never seen a little old lady move so fast in my life. She put her hand over his mouth. He meant $10, right? but they both said they were conservative. Clearly different answers.
10% versus, yeah. So if you've got $1 million sitting there, he's talking about 100 grand he's okay with. She's talking about $10.
Right.
Right. Yeah. That's great. That's awesome. Yeah. You got to love that. I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's not just the X's and the O's, the numbers is what I mean by that, right? It's not just the financials. What you guys do also does involve behavioral management as well. It really, truly does. And, because we're emotional creatures, and what do we get the most emotional about?
Money.
Love and money.
Yeah. Well, part of our job is simply that. Let's take the emotions off the equation, right? How many times you probably heard a financial advisor say, let's just stick to the plan, right? But when you hear news events, look, it's all in our face, right? It's on our phones. It's on our front. News events happen, and the market goes crazy because one person said one thing, right? And it goes all over the place, and people panic. And so we field a lot of calls. We send out a lot of proactive communication saying, yeah, we heard it too. This is what it means or doesn't mean, right? And let's take the emotions off because when you make those emotional decisions, they can be a little jaded, right? Just like going to the store, and the marketers are geniuses by placing product where it needs to be placed to play off your human emotions.
Yeah. Or your hunger or whatever. Right.
Exactly.
So, yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a great point. So, we're working with a financial professional. A lot of times you will get little updates, or you'll get little video messages or things of that nature. Obviously, you can tune into podcast episodes where we'll be talking about, sometimes it's going to be very general, broad topics, because I don't think this is a word, Shawn. I've never bothered to look it up, but I say universalisms a lot. I'm not sure if that's an actual word.
It works for me.
But there's a lot of universal things that do affect us as we get to retirement, right? Taxes and Social Security and income needs and all that stuff. Yeah. But, life is always good. Headlines are always going to headline. Yeah. All right. It's always going to be something that causes some sort of in the market. And so how do you react to that goes a long way into whether you're maybe costing yourself or not. Right.
Yeah. So, and I look at them as teaching moments too. So, you'll hear us talk about it on here. If a big event just happened, we'll talk about it on the show. We'll talk about what it means. Right. And how does that affect you, or what does it mean or not mean? And it's just, I like to turn it all back into education part of it, and so people understand what exactly did that just mean to me.
Yeah, because, and again, that behavioral management piece is a huge piece of it, because oftentimes, especially in this technological age, Shawn, where if you're DIYing a lot of things, you can accomplish a lot. There's a lot of tools out there, but for retirement, that preservation phase, that distribution phase, it's a whole different animal. When you pull one lever, 6 more, get affected by that, and you just don't know what you don't know. And so I think a real value add from working with a financial professional like yourself and your team there is that, talk me off the ledge, right? Yeah, educate me so I don't do something silly.
Right. Well, you made a comment there too. It's like, I tell people, look, your money in retirement acts different than it does in your working years, right? There's things about retirement that are just totally different that maybe people didn't even think about. I can't tell how many times we've heard it, right? Oh, I've never heard that. Well, because you either you were doing it yourself, or you were talking to people that were 100% focused on accumulation in that growing phase, which is great. You got to do that, right?
Right.
But once you get within that target zone of retirement, you mentioned getting into your 50s, right? You got to start thinking about some other things and be ready. You don't want to get caught off guard and get slapped upside the head because you just didn't know, right?
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. Well, 2 more things I want to cover on this episode, Shawn, before we wrap this one up on investing. The conversation about fees. Yep. They are like fleas. they show up. Look, nothing's free in this world. We all know that, right? People are always concerned about fees when it comes to their various investments. How do you guys work with that, or kind of explain that, right? Because most people, obviously, we're looking for transparency. We're looking for making sure that we understand what we're getting. And look, at the end of the day, it's value, right? So if you're getting good value for what you're paying, then I think most people who understand that are okay with that. You can go to, let's say, this particular burger chain A and get a really cheap burger. Yeah. You know what you're getting, but it's probably not the best. Right. Or you can spend a little more and go to burger chain B and get a much better burger, right? So is that value worth it to you?
Spot on, because the value that we're providing in this kind of planning is trying to navigate all those little nuances, right? All those little things in retirement that you didn't have to worry about in your working years are all just part of the plan. And we're very transparent, right? We're not going to hide fees. We're not going to be, you're going to see right in your face. It's going to be right on your plan document. This is what it cost, right? Yeah. And it really depends on how your plan comes out. And believe it or not, and people are going to probably roll their eyes when they hear it. It's like, our goal is not to try to charge as much as we can and build your portfolio up as much as we can to get the fee. It's to be an efficient plan for you.
Yeah.
Right. And oftentimes by where we place the money in the different investments, sometimes you don't get charged anything for some of that. And sometimes you do, because we do build a custom plan out for every single person.
Okay.
So your net fees could end up really being reduced by putting the proper plan together, but you'll see it all laid out right in front of you. Right.
Yeah. And I think, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. And I think a lot of people definitely, because you'll hear people say, oh, well, my advisor, my gal or guy or gal, they only charge me 1%. Right. You'll hear that very often. And it's a lot of times it's not the advisor fees, right? It's the products that you have that there's a lot of fees in, and they don't always have to be as transparent. So helping the client understand what they have and what's costing them is very important too. Yeah.
Where it's very important for us to be, one, on the educational side, two, being on the transparent side, is you're going to see everything laid out exactly what it costs, you, I don't like nickel and diming people. So, when we say it's one thing, we try to be as much as a one-stop shop as possible so we can help quarterback and navigate this phase of life. Right.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And it's all wrapped up in together. And, you're not going to sit here and get all these different invoices. You're not going to have surprises. This is what it is. This is what it shakes out to be. That includes all the active management, the advice, all those different things. But we're always going to be very transparent.
Well, you hit on a word there. I was going to do the one more, so we'll wrap it up with that. People hear buzzwords, certainly in this industry, and it's active or passive management. What is that for folks?
So I look at it this way. Passive management is more like the mutual funds and the 401ks, right? The way I look at it is take a box. They put investments into the box, right? They close the lid. They put it up on the shelf, and it just sits there. Right. They don't open it and look at it very often. They don't take the contents out and change them out very often. Active management is look, we're going to get a box. We're going to get a container. We're going to put all this stuff in there. We're not closing the lid, and we're certainly not putting it on the shelf. Right. Yeah. Because we may need something out of there, or it may need to be replaced, later on. It's constantly looking at, and it doesn't mean it costs more. It's just, it's constantly looking at what needs to adjust. Gotcha. Right. Because when you look at the 2008 financial crisis, most of that came from the big dips and money that people lost was sitting in those 401ks, right? Because they're just sitting on a shelf. I'm not saying you could avoid it, but you can help the volatility a little bit, right? Let's try to control the swings as much as we can. And how you do that is by being strategic and being able the flexibility to move stuff in and out when you need to.
Okay. All right. Well, as we wrap things up this week, if you've got some questions, need some help, like I'm going to say on every episode, please reach out to Shawn. Before you take any action, check with a qualified professional. But if you want to get started, they do offer that 1 hour free, planning consultation. That's a great way to do it. But also you can get the toolkit, right? So you've got this Retire Happy Framework toolkit. It's got your book in it, The Priority of Retirement, and some other guides and things that can be helpful as well. It's a great way to dip your toe in.
100%. There's a lot of good resources out there on the website, retirewisepro.com. Get that toolkit. It's a great place to start, like you said.
Okay. All right. And while you're doing stuff, go ahead and subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, or of course here on YouTube. So you catch new episodes when they come out of Retire Wise with Shawn Maloney. Again, just reach out to him. We've got the number on the screen. We got links in the descriptions and the numbers in there. Whatever you need to do, but take a little action for yourself and your future self and for your retirement. And we will see you next time right here on the podcast.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business RetireWise LLC. RetireWise LLC is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through AE Wealth Management LLC, AEWM, a registered investment advisor. AEWM does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by RetireWise LLC are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This podcast show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. RetireWise LLC is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein, provided by third parties, have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by RetireWise LLC.